Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and now you can also follow me on Vero, also at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Thursday's edition of the DCEU Daily. Are you new to this channel? Right, if you're new to this channel, you should know, or you need to know, what we do on this channel. For 30 minutes a day, we do this, the DCEU Daily, where we talk about and fan the flames of Restore the Snyderverse and update you with all the DC existing content in live action when there's something to update you with. I also do the Doctor Who Daily, and the Manchester United, the MUFC Daily as well. So, if you're a Manchester United fan, if you're a DC fan, if you're a Doctor Who fan, or you love movies and television in general, please subscribe and smash the like right now. Please be a bit more generous with your likes. It gets me noticed on the algorithm, and I am around 912 subscribers now, and I'm not far away from 1K. 1K means I get seen more on the algorithm. So if you like me, if you think I'm charming, please give us a like, give us a subscribe. So yes, welcome to Thursday's edition of the DCEU Daily. The story of the Snyderverse is the most fascinating story in Hollywood history. You will never ever see or hear of a story like this. I'm sure when Zack Snyder was tapped by Christopher Nolan to do a Superman film, Man of Steel, he had no idea what was going to happen. Now, he knew he was a unique, different type of storyteller, which meant that some people were going to hate the idea of him making a Superman movie, considering what they saw him do with Watchmen. By the way, check out the Watchmen Ultimate Edition. Absolute, a chef's kiss. Fucking love it. What a great movie, by the way. Never read the graphic novels. So, the story of the Snyderverse isn't a simple one. It's a complicated one. It's really about a family. We're family. The Snyderverse fandom. We did something amazing by not restoring the Snyderverse, although we've nearly achieved that. Next year, everyone, 2022, you'll get the announcement that the Snyderverse has been restored. I guarantee you about that. And we will have a big celebration. Maybe I'll do an ice bucket challenge live on air or something like that. But the story of the Snyderverse is fascinating, just like Zack Snyder is. It's a story of a family tragedy in terms of the Snyders and what happened to them personally, and how we felt that emotionally and related to them, because a lot of Zack Snyder's fans are fathers and mothers and family people and brothers and sisters. And we've taken the Snyders to our hearts because they're not just everyday people. They're not just creatives. They're good people that have really been respectful to their fans. Normally, creatives talk down to their fans in this era of social media. How many times have I seen a director, me say something constructive to a director, and him spit feathers back at me, or her spit feathers back at me? Maybe it's a writer, not a director. But Zack Snyder is a gentleman. He won't respond to hatred. And if you ask him a genuine question, he'll try and respond to you. Even now, he is one of the biggest, most famous directors in the world. How did this happen? How comes we're here now? Man of Steel was a film that was very unique. Now, Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao says that Man of Steel seemed like a film by Terrence Malick. Now, anyone who's seen anything from Terrence Malick knows this is the greatest compliment you can pay Zack Snyder. It's an amazing compliment. And if we deep dive into Man of Steel, it is a sensational movie. It is a movie about the world that we live in. It's about our environment. They take the destruction of Krypton, and they make commentary about our world and how we're destroying our world, and we're so arrogant we don't see it because we're here now. There's no meteor shower, we're not drowning, we're not flooding, it's all right. Of course it's not. And this is what happens on Krypton. Jor-El tried to warn them, but they didn't listen. And so in the end, Jor-El has to take action on his own. Now, it's interesting in Man of Steel because while Jor-El takes this positive action, breaks the rules, but takes positive action where he doesn't actually go out to kill anyone, Zod wants to take affirmative action as well, But his way is bitter, it's twisted, it's dark. It hurts people. He kills a member of the Kryptonian Council. So maybe she had it coming, but it's not the way we can progress our society, is it? So Zod's very, very frustrated and angry. So Snyder, Nolan and Goya do this huge movie that looks absolutely beautiful. And it's, I think, everything a modern day Superman film should be. Snyder gives the visuals, Snyder gives the kind of, the vision from Snyder in Man of Steel isn't necessarily the story. The story, of course, is from Nolan and Goya. It's his visual story that makes it a great template in a modern day film. And not everyone liked this film because they didn't like how Superman was portrayed. First of all, this is a Superman Begins movie. He is not the Christopher Reeve Superman. He's not the smiley hero yet. Snyder, Nolan and Goya decided he had to earn the right to be that Superman. And we've of course discussed this many times before. But it's a fascinating film. It has a fascinating story. And I suppose it's like taking a drug and you're on a high. And when that drug wears out, you want more. When Man of Steel calms down and you get to the end in the Daily Planet, you just want more. It's a very exciting movie, but it's also telling a deep, sensitive story about the world order we live in, and it's great. So Zack Snyder got a lot of kickback from Man of Steel, but it had this illusion of a popcorn chomping movie as well. So somewhat they kind of got away with it. There's a lot of people who love Man of Steel, as I do. So although it was a controversial movie and some people just didn't like the portrayal of Superman and how Superman was displayed in this movie, people gave it in a way a pass. It made solid money, but not the money Warner Brothers wanted. And then Zack Snyder was planning a Man of Steel sequel, but Warner Brothers didn't like the box office, so they decided to inject Batman into the mix. So Zack Snyder had to be really creative. Now, Warner Brothers, I assume Zack Snyder, I don't know what happened, but somewhere along the way the decision was made for David S. Goya to move away from the project. It was like they were blaming him for kind of the moment when Superman kills Zod. Now, that moment is very, very controversial. Superman killing, of course, is very, very controversial. Now, the way Goya does it in that movie, he makes it that the character has no choice. He gives him a no-win scenario. The only way to win is to kill. And of course, this is a very controversial, divisive thing to do. That is the most divisive thing about Man of Steel. Now, my opinion on it is I was never triggered. From the first moment I saw it, it didn't bother me that Superman killed. I just saw a hero in a no-win scenario who had to make a decision, but the world went mad. So that was the controversial take in the movie. Christopher Nolan even saying he didn't agree with it. And that's Christopher Nolan. And we know what his sensitivities are in terms of storytelling. So that was a moment that really split the audience. And I think it would have made a lot more money if not for that moment. So we get to Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. This is the movie that broke the internet. This is the movie that divided the world. I have never seen a movie have such an effect on the populace. You know, yesterday I was watching the sequel to Oliver Stone's JFK. Now, you would think a movie like JFK would be controversial, it would split everyone politically. Some people, you know, fervently believed that Lee Harvey Oswald was the lone assassin. And, you know, a lot of people knew that the magic bullet theory and all of that was bullshit. Stone investigated the murder of President Kennedy and he put his evidence in a movie. He did it in a movie so they can't shoot down what he was saying. And it changed things. You know, Oliver Stone was even deposed, you know, by the government. You know, and an amazing situation. And he made this documentary with the new evidence, which I saw yesterday, which was made this year. Fascinating. And it just shows you as well. Imagine Warner Brothers Pictures in 1992 commissioning a film that proves that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone. That would never happen today. And then we look at Warner Brothers in 1992. Wow, what a fucking studio. Brave, gutsy. But in 2017, they drove Zack Snyder away because he had a different take on these DC universes and DC characters. They went from being epic heroes, warriors in 92 with JFK, and they went to being fucking cowards in 2017. And it's all to do with this film, Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice. Now, is Batman vs Superman truly a controversial take on Batman and Superman? For me, it's not that controversial, but then I don't care if Batman kills. My opinion of Batman since I saw, what's his name? Tim Burton, that's his name. Tim Burton's first Batman. It was a darker take. It looked dark. It was very gothic. Because I haven't read any Batman comics, so I always felt if anyone was going to kill from the DC universe, it would be Batman. And so Snyder decided to do this kind of Dark Knight Returns thing with BVS. Now, it's not a real adaptation. Snyder's saying to this day he'd like to make a proper copy and pasted live action version. Please take my money now, Zach. But it has got elements of that film. It's got visual elements. And it's got other elements. Obviously, Batman and Superman fight. Now, in The Dark Knight Returns, really Superman is the agent of the White House. So it's a very different kind of story. And the reason they're fighting in BVS is because Lex Luthor, aka the wonderful, one of the best actors of our generation, Jesse Eisenberg, has stirred the pot. He's manipulated this fight so they can kill each other. He doesn't want them around because they're in his way. And he absolutely despises Superman. And Lex Luthor has always despised Superman in the comics because he wants to have Superman's power. Why has he got it? Why is he here? If in Superman the movie, Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor says, if anyone was going to, have this power, it should have been me. And that is Lex Luthor. Even though Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor in Superman the movie isn't a loyal adaptation of the comic book character, that line is what Lex Luthor is all about. And Jesse Eisenberg really played it. What type of Lex Luthor is Jesse Eisenberg? Because he's part of the controversy of the movie. And partly why people don't like Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. He's more of an insane Lex Luthor. You can see this man has a mental health disorder. He's not all there at all. And I think lots of people kind of saw Eisenberg's performance as kind of being Riddler type. Now, I suppose if you look some of the elements of his physicality as he does in his performance, you could say that. But I still think it's a very intriguing, unique take on Lex Luthor. And the deep hate for Superman can be seen, especially at that moment on the roof, when Superman and Lex face off. He really tells Superman he hates him. He despises him. He's kind of confused, Superman, with his father, Alexander Luthor, who absolutely treated him terribly from what he's saying in this film. So he's a very damaged young man, this Lex Luthor. And the performance is great. People didn't like him because he doesn't aesthetically look how Lex looks like in the comics. Michael Rosenbaum's Lex looked like a more loyal adaptation of Lex Luthor. But he was different. You wouldn't look. When he was first cast, I thought, well, Jesse's a great actor. As I say, one of the greatest actors of our generations. The movies and the performances, he's done, like The Social Network, a sensation. And I think his performance, in The Social Network is the kind of overleaping factor why he got to play Lex Luthor. And Zack Snyder's very good with castings. He casted all his heroes wonderfully. And I think Eisenberg wasn't bad casting. He just wasn't the Lex Luthor. Maybe he wasn't our first pick. And this is why I think that Zack Snyder's, Snyderverse being a parallel universe is a much better idea. Everything about it is parallel to what the actual DC universe, in a lot of people's minds, should be. So Batman vs Superman was a very controversial movie. But it's an interesting movie because Clark Kent, the investigative reporter, does a lot of investigative reporting. It's a proper version of Clark Kent. You could argue it's a more loyal adaptation of Clark Kent in the glasses than it is of Superman. But Superman is in a very difficult position in this film. The idea from Snyder and Terrio is to show that there is a division about Superman. We're divided these days anyway, mostly thanks to the mouthpiece of social media allowing us to say within reason whatever the fuck we want. And that is a problem. When you stand there and say everything that's on your mind, there's going to be a division. So Superman has created a divide. You know, the senator played by Holly Hunter doesn't like the fact that he acts unilaterally. But this is a true issue, because this is supposed to be a somewhat real world Superman. So the reason people don't like this film, there's many reasons some people didn't like this film. It was very dark, it was very moody, it was a very serious film. Some people claiming and critics saying the film took itself too seriously. But the truth of the matter is, the mainstream audience and critics went beyond Nolan's Dark Knight and went to the Avengers and decided that all superhero films shouldn't be dark and gritty. They should be light and fun with jokes, with, you know, bright colour palettes and action and smarmy lines and things like that. So the MCU was really giving Snyder's take a whip up the backside, because people had decided what should be a superhero movie and what shouldn't be a superhero movie. But it's as wrong of critics and fans to say that everything should be like The Dark Knight, like it's wrong to say that everything should be like Joss Whedon's Avengers and like the MCU. There should be a variety in our superhero live action, you know, movies. It shouldn't all be this or all be that. Zack Snyder's an auteur director who had a vision, and he was able to display that vision. But after Batman vs Superman, it was absolutely clear that the mainstream audience and the critics, most of the critics, despise Snyder. Even comic book writers themselves, not all of them, but some of them. The hatred towards Snyder was within fever pitch. And then when we got to David Ayer's, or not David Ayer's Suicide Squad, there was a big problem. They'd already interfered in that theatrical version, and they were about to do the same again with Zack Snyder's Justice League. As they quickly kind of realised that Snyder was not going to back down from what he was going to do. He tried. He wrote and rewrote Justice League to kind of find some middle ground with the studio. But he realised there was going to be no middle ground here, because the studio were in a very uncomfortable position. It was either sink or swim. It's either back him and go into the abyss, or just move him away and just go for a bright, colourful Justice League movie. But once you remove Snyder, in my opinion, you've got to cancel the DCEU. There's no DCEU without Zack Snyder. If you don't want to go that way anymore, cancel it, start again. I've said that many a time. What they did with Justice League is the most hideous situation I've ever seen. And as I say, the story of the Snyderverse is a story you'll never see in Hollywood again. They broke every fucking rule you shouldn't break. And then when you're Kevin Sugihara and Joss Whedon brings this movie to you, a movie that you've ordered this movie to be the way it is. You've ordered this movie to be released the same time Zack's movie was going to be released. It's a shit show, the green screen's crap. They shot stuff on green screen that Zack shot on location in the reshoots. And you sitting in the cinema, and the first act is alright of Justice League, but then you noticed how cheap and rushed that movie is. And it simply doesn't work. Even at the end, when all the heroes are standing together, it looks fake. It looks cheesy. It doesn't work. And it actually works when you see them stand together at the end of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Like I always knew, like we always knew it would be. So Justice League was the evidence of the pressure Warner Brothers were under after BVS and the first Suicide Squad movie. They had a lot of decisions they could have made, and they made a wrong one. They forced him out, they drove him out. But that wasn't the end of it, as we already know, because Zack Snyder said no. No. You see, this happens a lot in Hollywood. You know, if a director's vision doesn't fit within what a studio wants, they move that director on. We've seen it so many times. But normally, that director plays ball and moves away. But Snyder wasn't having any of it. after he moved, because tragically his daughter took her own life, and he's told us already that because of the pressure they were putting on him and because he'd lost his daughter, he just didn't have to fight them. Do you understand? If Autumn hadn't have taken her own life, which we all wish she didn't, Zack would have had the gumption, he would have had what he needed inside of himself to fight them. And I think he would have won. Look, they drove him out, and from the outside of the company, he won. By leaking stuff, by motivating us, the fans of his DCEU, his fans, to fight, to release the Snyder Cut. And it worked. There were many times most of us didn't even believe this was a thing, but we wanted to stand with him and fight. It's very rare for consumers and a director to stand together, to have the relationship that we have with Zack. It's an amazing situation, and it came to a boiling point, and Zack got his movie green-lit 4 years later, and we saw Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. And we thought maybe we could restore the rest of it. But I'm afraid Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder just could not work together, or Warner Brothers Pictures. There's a lot of reasons why that happened. I think elements of Zack wanted to get revenge and out them publicly, which he did, which really hurt his chances in the end of restoring the Snyderverse there and then. And then there's the Ray Fisher effect as well, which just didn't help the situation. And we've heard from Warner Brothers already. They believe Zack Snyder, put Ray Fisher, up to it all as well. So at the end, there was going to be no Restore the Snyderverse at that time. That, my friends, is the story of the Snyderverse. But of course, there's more to it than that. Because it's not over yet. Because we're fighting to restore the Snyderverse. Isn't that a fascinating situation, everyone? Because I would think, normally, there'll be no way we could restore the Snyderverse. The only way we released the Snyder Cut was because of AT&T. But there's another outside element happening now. And it's David Zaslav and Discovery. This takeover of Warner Brothers and all their media entities changes everything. Because David Zaslav has put his cards on the table. He has. He's put his cards on the table. He's meeting directors and people outside of the company, learning as much as he can about the fictional industry. Because he works basically with documentaries with Discovery and reality television. So he's learning, but he's asking questions. He knows what happened with the day and date situation. He's trying to, at this moment in time, he's talking to directors who have been upset by this to bring them back to the studio. And do you think he's left Zack Snyder out of this mix? Of course not. That's why I wholeheartedly believe that in 2022, it will be announced that we have restored the Snyderverse. But for this to happen, we can't rest on our laurels. We've got to keep on fighting and talking, and we've got to keep on hashtagging Restore the Snyderverse and never let this situation lie or die. We've got to keep on fighting, but I believe we're nearly there. On one hand, Patty Jenkins said that her and the rest of the DCEU directors don't see Justice League as canon. On the other hand, she went to the very person who basically was against what Snyder was, about to do with the DCEU, and that was Geoff Johns. She co-wrote Wonder Woman 84 with Geoff Johns. She's publicly stated she likes Geoff Johns. So it's like she's trying to play both sides in a way. How can you at one point, be writing a Wonder Woman film with Geoff Johns, but then saying that Justice League isn't canon and the Snyder Cut is? It's like we can't really trust her. I don't think Geoff Johns actually co-wrote anything about Wonder Woman 84, because I think that when you look at some of the live action stuff that Geoff Johns is involved in, Stargirl, some of the Smallville episodes he did were great. I don't believe anything that's on that page for WW84 is anything to do with Geoff Johns, in my personal opinion. She used Geoff Johns as a point of origin from the graphic novels because she's too damn lazy to pick up the comic books herself, and her point of origin for Wonder Woman is Linda Carter's live-action TV series, and there lies the problem. Now, I do believe that Zack Snyder is involved with Wonder Woman 3, and I'm starting to believe that maybe he will co-write the story with Patty Jenkins. That's just my feeling, because she knows she's lost, and I think her confidence will be low after being fired by Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm on Rogue Squadron. So we'll see how that develops. Zachary Levi wishes Shazam 2 could premiere sooner than 2023. Well, Zachary, don't we all, mate? And I think that might happen. Zachary Levi loves Shazam Fury of the Gods so much. He believes it's better than the first movie and wishes it was coming out sooner than 2023 by Rachel Abernathy of Screen Rant. Zachary Levi feels so good about Shazam Fury of the Gods, he wishes it was coming out sooner than 2023. 2019 Shazam first introduced audiences to young hero Billy Batson, Asher Angel, and its sequel will give him his biggest adventure yet. Angel and Levi, as Billy's adult superhero form, both return. What's that say? Superhero form. Both return for Shazam 2, alongside most of the original cast and director David F. Sandberg. Originally scheduled to premiere in the spring of 2022, Shazam 2 saw itself pushed back considerably by the coronavirus pandemic. Production took place earlier this year. Plot details for Shazam Fury of the Gods are still being kept under wraps as usual, but a few details have been revealed about the dceu film. In terms of villains, Billy and his similarly powered foster siblings will go up against a pair of godly sisters, Hespera Helen Mirren and Calypso Lucy Liu. Exactly what these ladies want from the Shazam family remains to be seen. As Mirren accidentally confirmed recently, Hespera and Calypso have a third sister in Rachel Zegler. Zegler's mystery character, though she could end up being more of an ally. Sequels have a lot of expectations to live up to, but Levi seems to think Shazam Fury of the Gods will blow the first movie away. Speaking to Collider ahead of the new movie American Underdog, Levi explained why he believes Shazam 2 will be even better than the original. He feels so strongly about it that he wishes fans could see it a lot sooner than June 2023, Levi said. I will say that I genuinely, and this is not just lip service, I'm really proud of the first one. I think we made it a really good movie. I think the second one is better. I think that we had more time, we had more budget, we had essentially the entire cast returning, and we all knew our characters a little bit more. We could kind of sit into them a little bit more. Henry Gayden, who wrote the first script, wrote the second, and he did a fantastic job doing so. Everything just clicked even a little bit more and a little bit more. And also the kids have grown up a little bit more, so even the sensibilities of them become even slightly more mature, which brings it closer to my or other people's adult minds. So there's even more connection there. I think the action's great, the comedy's great, the relationships are great, the bad guys Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu are fantastic. I'm very proud of it. I want it to come out sooner than June of 2023. This is interesting. We'll discuss that in a minute. Summer 2023 is a long time to wait for Shazam 2, but it sounds like it will be worth it. The first Shazam was a light-hearted breath of fresh air for the DCEU, and now that Billy's origin story has been taken care of, the sequel can really dig into a thrilling story. The presence of three goddesses certainly ups the stakes for the Shazam family, which should make for a richer conflict. Plus, as the cast has already made one movie together, they must feel much more comfortable with each other. Perhaps Levi has good reason to think highly of Shazam 2. Sadly though, his dreams of having it come out sooner likely won't come to pass. Well, you don't actually know that, do you, Rachel? DC has a jam-packed 22 slate, starting with The Batman in March, ending with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom in December. Scheduling aside, there's still post-production and possible reshoots to work through. Still, Shazam Fury of the Gods is as good as Levi says it is. Audiences won't have any problem waiting to see it. Better take the time to make it perfect. Well, Do you know what, Rachel? I disagree with you. And it's interesting that Zachary Levi, Zach is saying this. Is there a chance that this film, ignore what Rachel just said, but is there a chance that this film could be released for next year? The shooting finished months ago. He's been working on post, David, what, couple of months now? I think it takes about 3 or 4 months, but he could have already done it anyway. But maybe he's still working on it. Anyway, right, so let's look at 2022. So we are looking at the Batman in March. We are looking at Black Adam in the summer. I think it's June, July or August, something like that. Comment down below because I've forgotten the date for that. And then we've got the Flash movie in November. And the Aquaman sequel, The Lost Kingdom, in December. So I don't believe that Aquaman will stay on a December release date, because isn't that the date for Avatar? Can't remember, but it looks like it. I think that Aquaman could move into maybe late summer, early summer, something like that. It'll be interesting. Now, Aquaman is still being shot, and so it's understandable that it would need a later 2022 date, but they could jig it around for September or something like that. So it's interesting because did they release it at a Christmas? Did they release it in December last time? I can't remember. So I believe that Aquaman can move. And if you wanted to, I do believe that Shazam Fury of the Gods could be in there. I mean, it's only 5 movies for theatrical release. It's not the end. It's not the end of the world. So, for example, if Black Adam is being released in the summer, as I say, I think it's June, or I think it's July or August, right? So you could go back to putting Shazam in for a spring release date. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it's interesting that Zach said he wished it was released earlier. So I think I mean, we're looking at March for the Batman. That's the main reason it was pushed to 2023. Because the Batman had to be delayed from this year to next year because Reeves didn't want a day and date plan. He wanted it purely in movie theatres, and they're too scared to lose him, so they did what he wanted. So we've got April, May, we've got about 3 months where you could push it in there. So I believe, right, you could even shove it in May time. It would be a great time of year as well for Shazam. So watch this space and let's see what happens to Shazam Fury of the Gods. It's shaping up really well, and I think it's going to be a really good mainstream DC Extended Universe movie. And finally today, this article from Screen Rant interviewing Kiersey Clements, who's going to play Iris West in the Flashpoint movie later next year, has said some interesting things, and this piqued my interest. The Flash Iris West actor explains why filming DC movie was so weird. Interesting. The Flash's Kiersey Clements, who plays Iris West in the upcoming DC film, explains why finally filming the movie after years of delay was so weird, by Elliot Griffiths. Kiersey Clements, who is playing Iris West in DC's upcoming movie The Flash, as explains why it was so weird to film the new superhero movie. The 28-year-old actress first starred in Rick Famuyiwa's indie comedy Dope in 2015, and this is the reason that Rick actually cast her for his original take on The Flash, but of course, you know, he was moved on, unfortunately. Before a supporting role in 2017's Flatliners remake, Clemens play the matriarchal darling in Disney's live-action Lady and the Tramp. In 2019, before voicing Dee Dee in 2020's animated Scoob, for several years the actress has been attached to the long-troubled production schedule of DC's The Flash solo movie. As comic book love interest Iris West, filming scenes for 2017's Justice League, Clemens was nowhere to be seen in Joss Whedon's edited theatrical release, but finally had her character and scenes realised in this year's director's cut by Zack Snyder. The Flash was first officially announced back in 2014 as DC revealed its original slate of movies built around Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. Originally set for March 2018 release, Ezra Miller was soon attached to star. When original director Seth Grahame-Smith left the project in 2016, Clemens joined the cast alongside her Dope director Rick Famuyiwa. By 2017, troubled pre-production led to yet another director change as horrible bosses screenwriting pair Daly and Goldstein joined the film a year after. It Chapter 2's Andy Muschietti finally took over as director from them in 2020, and the movie finally went into production with a new release scheduled for July 2022. Obviously it's not there anymore. Now they haven't even updated this, July 2022. That's not when The Flash is coming out. It's coming out in November of 2022. Let's get our facts straight, eh? Screen rant? Now in an interview with Discussing Film, Clemens has discussed what it feels like to have finally worked on a long-awaited superhero movie. The actress says it didn't feel real, saying that the long wait between the film's announcement and its eventual production felt weird. Clemens states that Iris has grown up since she first took on the role over 5 years ago, and that the version we will see in The Flash is a different version than what I may have had an idea of originally. Despite the odd nature of the film's 8-year-long process, the film is officially coming in 2022, and the Iris West actress says, "I'm excited for the people who are excited." Read Clemens' full interview quote below. Of course we're excited, Kiersey. We love you, Kiersey. I love you, Instagram. It didn't feel real, none of it, from day I started to the day that I wrapped, because we waited so long that I was like, I'm not really here right now. It felt weird, I'm not gonna lie. It felt weird because it's been a long time. Yet Iris has grown up and is a different version than what I may have had an idea of who she would be. It was just a discovery, and it was really exciting. Initially came onto the movie excited to work with who was the director at the time, but also excited to be in a superhero movie. Now it's less about the movie. I'm excited for Andy, who's our director now, but now it's more so. I'm excited for people who are excited and who have been commenting on my photos. Iris West for 5 years. Like, are you joking? This is for them. Yeah, so she's talking about us waiting to see her for so long. But it's interesting with Kiersey. This is how good she is, by the way. I've been a big fan of Kiersey for many, many years. You see her in the Snyder Cut. She doesn't really say anything apart from a couple of mumbles in the car. But you see the face expressions, and they're kind of interesting, kind of funny at times as well. She's a serious actor, she's a humorous actor, she's very, very good. And we're really going to like this version of Iris West. I'm very, very confident about that. The Flash has taken an interesting path to the big screen with all the behind the scenes changes, so it isn't surprising Clemens finds the experience strange. At one point she envisioned the project as a reunion with her director Famuyiwa. But her perspective on The Flash has changed over time. She's now more excited for audiences who have waited a long time to see The Flash come into fruition, suggesting that creative team kept viewers in mind while they were making the movie. It's been a long time coming for The Flash, so it has to come as a relief to all the parties it's finally come to fruition. Even though the movie's gone through multiple versions, there's still plenty to be enthused about. The Flash trailer showed Barry Allen visiting Michael Keaton's Batcave, for instance. I mean, that's so cool, isn't it? Clemens' restored role in Zack Snyder's Justice League has helped establish the relationship between Iris and Barry, which is said to be expanded on more in the new solo film. Despite the massive crossovers and guest stars, The Flash still has to find time for its emotional centre. The West-Allen romance, how big of a role the actress has to play in the film, remains to be seen, but audiences can see The Flash in theatres in fall 2022. Exactly. We don't know how huge a role Kiersey's Iris has actually in this film. It's going to be interesting, because in the Justice League movie, it's a very small role, but that is the first time they ever meet. That's obvious, right? So we've seen that. That's why the Snyder Cut is canon, right? That's proof. That's the proof you've got there. This is why the Snyder Cut is canon to this Flash movie. That's why Andy Muschietti said to them, we can't have Joss's movie be canon because Kiersey's not even in that movie, and I need Kiersey in this movie. Andy made sure that the Snyder Cut and the Snyderverse was going to be canon, and quite right too. So nobody really knows what kind of a movie this is going to be. We know it's an element of an adaptation of the Flashpoint graphic novel by Jeff Johns, but we just don't know how much of that is in this film, where they go with it. And of course the huge thing is, They're using this whole Flashpoint story to reboot the DCEU, and who knows how it's all going to end up. Will the Snyderverse remain canon, or will it be decanonized? I think if it's decanonized, Twitter will break. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And don't forget, we're not far away from 1K. I've been doing this since July, is it 2017, 2018? 3 years, everyone, over 3 years. It's a slow progress. I don't get many views, but I'm loving doing these videos for myself and for you, of course. So there'll be more DCEU Daily tomorrow. Until then, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen, see you then.